all of Los Angeles. I'd thought through every detail and confidently arrived at the airport with everything I needed. Everything, that is, except one item I hadn't tucked in my suitcases or sent ahead in the boxes. I didn't pack a single friend. After spending most of my life in the same city, same church, and same circles, I suddenly was minus my built-in community of friends. Looking back, I now see how unnatural it was to change a well-established migratory route in the middle of life and expect my wings to start flapping in rhythm as soon as I took the free fall. It shouldn't have been such a surprise that I fell so hard. After all, everything in my world had flip-flopped. I think it was necessary, though, for me to tumble as far down under as I did. Otherwise, I never would have stumbled into the chocolate fish on a fine fall Friday in February with feathers in my hair. And that's where I found Jill. If Jill were the one telling this story, she would say that's where she found me. But I'm saying that's where I found her. It had become clear that to solve the math problem written over this season of my life, I needed one more whole number. That little number was 1. One new best friend. Jill. Jill likes math. She sees math in art and nature and isn't afraid of the unknown equations. 2 years ago, when she and I stood in front of a painting at an Australian art museum in Sydney, she opened my eyes to the beauty of balance and symmetry. And that's when I began to make peace with math. But before I flutter through our story, I will add one more important point. I believe the reason I found Jill wasn't so much because I was looking for her, but because she was waiting for me, hanging by her painted toenails on the edge of her own empty nest. Chapter 1. During the 2 weeks before we left for New Zealand, every day felt like a storm at sea. My husband turned into a ruthless commander as the intensity of it all swept us through our final days in California. When the storm subsided, I found myself washed up at an unfamiliar airport on the underside of the globe. The only comforting sight was the grinning face of Tony's boss, Marcus, a.k.a. Mad Dog, who met us at the baggage claim in Wellington. He punched Tony in the arm. "What did you think of that flight? Was I right about its being a marathon film fest? How many did you watch?" 5. No, 7. No, I think it was 5. Tony's adrenaline-induced gaze seemed frozen on his face. Mad Dog adjusted his frayed corduroy cap. "You want to eat something first or go right to your new place?" "Home," I said, as if it were a secret password that would lead me into this new world. All I needed was my new space around me so I could start fluffing up things the way I liked. Then I would be ready to remind myself why this had been a good decision. "Home it is. Hope you guys like this place. I told you how hard it is to find housing near the studio, didn't I?" "You did," Tony said, "and we really appreciate all you did to find us a place. I'm going to owe you big time." "You can pay me back with a few hours of overtime." Mad Dog loaded our luggage into the back of a van he had borrowed from Walter Jacquemont Studios. "How many hours are a few, Marcus?" I asked. He let out a single gut sound that resembled a cross between a cough and a guffaw. In the 12 years we had known him, I still hadn't gotten used to his laugh. "You have to start calling me Mad Dog," he said. "No one here knows me as Marcus. And when I say a few hours, I mean—" He didn't finish his sentence, but I realized I already knew the answer. For the next 3 months, Jacquemont Studios would occupy my husband's every waking hour, not only because they were behind schedule on the project for which they had hired Tony, but also because my husband never did anything halfway. "Hey, it's Gollum!" Tony pointed to the roof of the terminal. An enormous model of the bald, grim-faced Middle-earth icon peered down on us, looking like a gigantic alien that had fallen to Earth and gotten his foot stuck through the roof. "I guess we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto," I said. Tony gave me a gratuitous wink at my attempt to make a joke. I gripped the car door's handle, not because of Tony's wink or Gollum's glare, but because Mad Dog was driving on the left side of the road. Tony laughed. "This is wild." "You'll get used to it," Mad Dog said. "Only took me a week when I moved here, maybe less." I expected an oncoming car to ram into us any moment. Everyone was going the opposite from what my brain said was correct. Mad Dog drove past a row of low-rise buildings, and I tried to take it all in. Stoplights, a normal-looking city bus, lots of small cars, billboards, and all of a sudden an Esprit store. All the evidences of Western civilization were here, yet it felt so different. "There's the embassy," Mad Dog said with reverence. He pointed to a pale yellow vintage square building. Fixed on the roof was another creature born in Tolkien's imagination. This one looked like a swooping black dragon with a long neck. "How strange that the U.S. Embassy would have a dragon movie prop on top of it," I said. Mad Dog and Tony both looked at me as if I were an alien creature who had just stuck my foot through the roof and landed in the same car with them. "What?" "Kathleen," Tony said patiently, "that's not the U.S. Embassy. That's the Embassy Theater. And on the roof, that's a fell beast ridden by a ring wraith." I kept a fixed expression and didn't blink, waiting for Tony to give me a few more hints as to why that should ring any bells. "Remember the photos we saw of the premiere, opening night?" "They still had Gollum on the roof of the embassy for the premiere," Mad Dog said. "Maybe that's why you didn't recognize it." "Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's the reason." I diverted my gaze out the window. I hoped I wouldn't be tested on any more Lord of the Rings trivia before we completed the last few miles of a very long journey to our new home. We turned onto a narrow road and followed a pristine bay that skirted Wellington like a fancy azure petticoat. Thousands of houses dotted the low, rolling green hills that rose from the bay. I noticed that some of the trees were beginning to drop their leaves. Autumn was coming to the globe's underside. At home, I had left budding jacaranda trees. My going-away party at work had been decorated with fresh tulips and spring daffodils. Here, the leaves were turning gold. I was in a flip-flopped place, inside and out. Mad Dog slowed the van as we entered a residential area. "See that house over there?" He pointed at a tidy bungalow that was about 800 square feet big. "That place just sold for the equivalent of $250,000. U.S. dollars, not New Zealand dollars. Like I said, it was amazing I found a place near the studio for the exact rent usage you wanted to pay. And it comes with a refrigerator." I should have known when he listed the refrigerator as a plus that I should brace myself. "If you don't take it, another guy at work wants it." "I'm sure we'll want it," I said. Tony voiced his agreement. Mad Dog stopped the car. "This is it. What do you think?" I peered out the car window at another bungalow-style house. The first thing I noticed was the grinning figurine standing his post in front of a narrow row of yellow and orange mums. I'd seen a number of lawn gnomes in my day, and a pink flamingo or two, but this was the first ceramic hobbit I'd ever seen guarding a flower bed. "Cute," I said with a smile, "but the hobbit definitely needs to go." Mad Dog let out his guffaw laugh. "You'll have to clear that one with Mr. Barry, the landlord. What do you think of the garage?" The tiny building that was separate from the main house had a window in front with curtains. It reminded me of the tool shed my father had built in our backyard when I was a girl. My two sisters and I wanted to turn the shed into a playhouse, but Dad never let us. "The garage is cute, too." I turned my attention to the main house. The bungalow appeared to be freshly painted in a soft shade of celery green, with white trim around the two front windows. It was much smaller than our home in Tustin, but I could make this cottage into our place for 3 months. "You think this will work for you?" Mad Dog asked. "Yes." I nodded and looked to see if Tony agreed. He did. "You got a good woman, Tony." Mad Dog reached into the back of the van for our luggage.